put on my headphones.
Good plan.
Cannot hear you. Where are my headphones?
I can see them. They're on your left ear and your right ear.
All good now. I keep hearing in my head the best dog in the galaxy. Like Patrick voice speaking in my head. Yes, so many times that.
How come you keep hearing that? Like, you just that phrase of
know.
Patrick saying it is like repeating in your head.
Yeah. He has said it so many times. Like earworm.
Pat Novajoy or Pat Novabat has intercepted your brain, Vlad, and he's done it with the best dog of the galaxy.
Seems so.
That's funny.
I went through your document, and I actually liked it because you're trying to get to the core of it. You're not like stuck in some kind of maximalism. You're just trying to really understand how it can be maximum valuable. So yeah, not limiting it to EOS, maybe not limiting it to Antelope, but finding even more broader purpose, so to say. Like a few thoughts, yeah, it ultimately depends what you want to achieve. If the goal is like to help EOS, then we should value contributions for EOS. If we want to help Antelope, we value contributions for Antelope. If we want to build decentralized governance solutions, and that's the help to build decentralized governance solutions, then that's another thing. And it's really, I think all of them would work. Question is like which one is the most reasonable right now. One thing is that like it's still a little bit difficult to interact with creating the account, and then Telegram might be for some, if there's a lot of people for whom it's first time, maybe it would a bit ruin the meeting, but then again it might not. But that's just one consideration, whether it's technically already feasible to onboard like more people who are not familiar with blockchain at all. And but for what I would like to bring value the most at the moment is just Antelope. I somehow see the narrative with the recent IBC. I see the narrative. Actually, it started when the ENF created the coalition so that they could develop the software together. Then this narrative started, and the chains like started uniting, and now with IBC even more. And I think we can also capitalize on that right now if we also push that narrative that a collaboration happens here with all the Antelope members. And I think there will be interest because of that, because really the chains, the communities want to collaborate. Yeah. What do you think?
Thank you for sharing all the thoughts. Very inspiring. And I have a lot of thoughts in response. So for one thing, because we started recording this and perhaps at some point we might share this with other people. So just to provide a little bit of context, the notes that Vlad has been talking about and what we've started to just jump into here is the mission of Eden Fractal. This has been something that has been an ongoing discussion in Eden Fractal, especially since week 29, I think. It was the first week that right after we got our system up with agendas and blendas and moderation stuff, Vlad made the first proposal about what is the mission of Eden Fractal. And then in the next week, we had a good discussion about that. And the next week we had a discussion where Vlad proposed a mission, and it was something like, just remembering off the top of my head, I don't know if you remember it, Vlad, but it was like fostering collaboration and building
Build,
relationships amongst EOS community members.
I think personal connections, but point is the same.
Right. Yeah. And then I had proposed it again. I tweaked the word personal connections to relationships, and I also added creating public goods in there because I thought creating public goods was a good thing. And then there was also several other proposals throughout the weeks. Gabriel had made a proposal focused more on like fractal governance, fractal democracy, and like mortal animals. Perry also made somewhat of a similar proposal too about the mission, and also Pascal, just this past week, he made a proposal that mentioned the mission as well. And it's come up a lot throughout the weeks. Came up a couple of times last week when we were discussing the potential for participant agreement. Several people said, well, what is the mission in the first place, and so forth. And yeah, it's something that people have wondered and spoken about a lot in the community, both in Eden Fractal and then also in the wider Eden community and EOS and in many different communities. So just this morning, like right before our call, well, I've been kind of thinking about it for a while. I was kind of partially inspired because I was listening to the new podcast. We spoke about the podcast with Daniel Schmachtenberger and Kevin Owocki. He just did a new one that I was just listening to a couple of days ago. They're forming a Metacrisis DAO.
Really?
It's the third one. Yeah. They're calling it Metacrisis DAO. It's not really a DAO. That's what they're calling it, but they have like a Discord group and Telegram. And I'm only halfway through actually, so I don't know all the details about it. But basically, it's like they're trying to rally.
We should join.
Yes. Yeah, we should join. And it just made me think like the EOS community, like it's amazing. I love the EOS community. There's so many great things that the EOS community is doing, but then also there's like all these awesome people doing all these amazing things who are really aligned around this vision of a lot of stuff we've been talking about on these calls, actually, about like the problems in the world, how to create a better society for everybody, make better experiences, know the truth, and like, get down to the core of these things, build regenerative societies, green pill, and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, well, if we focus more on EOS, then, most people don't know about EOS. And some people have different conceptions or don't like EOS for whatever reason, with the whole history with Block One and all these different things like that. And so I started thinking, well, one, we should make a plan. I've also been following Kevin Owocki's tweet, who's the host of the Green Pill Show and the founder of Gitcoin. And he's been putting out several tweets like, can anybody please build a consensus protocol for humans where people can cooperate better? So I've been thinking we should reach out to him. We also talked about Jordan Peterson, and there's many other people who are trying to figure out how to help people cooperate. So yeah, that was kind of just, I've been thinking about that for a while. And then this morning I was reading some contentious chats in the Eden members groups and the EOS chats, and I just realized that that's kind of a theme. There's all this baggage with EOS, and people have, like I just said, some people are kind of resentful of things that happened in the past or so forth, and it's also just kind of a fairly small community compared to what's out there in the world. And so yeah, I put together this note that I just sent to you, Vlad, like 20 minutes ago or so, and just kind of a first draft of a new idea for a mission statement, which is very much inspired by the one that you proposed and the ones that we've discussed, but just more focused, more agnostic about EOS or any particular blockchain or a particular community. I put out kind of 3 different potential options. The first one is Eden Fractal's mission is to create public goods, foster collaboration, and empower communities. The second one is the same thing as that, but I just added with consensus games at the end. I don't know if that makes it more complex or too complex. I like the idea of consensus games, but maybe it's best to keep it simple. And the last one just switches on the order to foster collaboration, create public goods, and empower communities. So my thinking was, well, I wrote, I'm thinking of proposing this as a plan in the Eden Fractal community. I'm also working on that article at edencreators.com/mission to try to curate, so I can perhaps put that together better, because it's still in kind of a rough draft state now, by next week. And then yeah, I wrote a bunch of reasons why. Like, one of the first reasons why was in our recent meetings, like, a lot of people don't know what the mission is, and I think it's better to just set a mission. We can always change it later, and when we can rally around a common cause, then that can be a great thing. So it can be much more inspiring and inviting for people. And then yeah, I wrote a bunch of reasons about how it opens up to a wider audience. It's more universal for people. I still love EOS, and so going back to what you were saying, a few different points. For one thing, I think that this mission statement does not at all exclude like contributions to Antelope or EOS, because I think that contributions to Antelope and EOS are contributions to create public goods, foster collaboration, and empower communities, because these are tools and communities, Antelope and EOS, that help do this. I think really, like you were saying in the end, like getting to the core of it and the kind of first principles we discussed, like the mission is to create public goods, foster collaboration, empower communities. Antelope and EOS are excellent tools and communities to do that with. So if somebody comes and they say, you know, I built this cool new app on EOS that helps people in this way, then that's great. That's a contribution to creating public goods, fostering collaboration, empowering communities. But also if somebody says like, you know, I don't know what EOS is, but I made a video, got 1 million views and inspired people to go help people and inspired people to do this, or I built a cool new tool, doesn't have anything to do with EOS, but you know, it's saving lives around the world and now people are collaborating better than ever, then that's very worthy of a contribution as well, even if it doesn't focus specifically on EOS and Antelope. Obviously, because the community is rooted in EOS and Antelope, there'll be a big focus on that in many ways, but I think it makes more sense to not have that as a requirement or in the mission statement, have it something that it's there, but it's not
More
like,
broader.
yeah, it's a broader mission overall. And then the last 2 points you made about potential difficulty about creating accounts. One, I don't know if you saw, but I was on the chief delegate meeting yesterday. You were there as well too. And then Andrew Ware had made a comment like it'd be great if Eden Fractal can help onboard people more easily. We had a conversation on the EOS Fireside Chat too. And then Aaron Cox, CEO of Grey Mask, got in touch with me, and he actually sent me a bunch of free account codes. So I have like 50 of those now, and he told me that I can let him know whenever I run out and need more. But basically, the way that works is there's just like a link. You can send it to people, and then it gives them a free account on the Anchor app on their phone or on the laptop or desktop or whatever. So from what I understand, it's quite simple. Yeah. So we can just give them a code. They can do that really quick and then create an account. And then you mentioned Telegram too. I don't know if there'd be difficulty with Telegram. I don't think so. But as far as EOS account, it's pretty simple now, I think.
That's very good. Like, I guess the keys are immediately also theirs. So we don't need to do what we have been doing, like changing the keys for the person. They immediately get it. So that's good.
Yep, exactly.
In regards to the mission, to me, like I like when it's simple. The more simple, the better. And a little bit, I see that foster collaboration encompasses within itself creating public goods and empowering communities. So by default, if we foster collaboration, it would lead to public goods creation and it would lead to empowering the communities. So I'm not sure whether it's even necessary to point out that in addition. Maybe it's good, but just Eden Fractal's mission is to foster collaboration. Boom. Succinct and encompasses everything. That's where I'm at right now.
Interesting idea. So I'm in complete agreement about simplicity. There's the idea of complexity, idea of, you know, take away everything that's not necessary, just the essentials, all that stuff. So I'm in agreement there. And I'm interested in exploring this. I hadn't thought about that. Some of the reasons why I think that it's good to have creating public goods and empowering communities. A few different reasons. One, and this might not be the best reason, but just the word foster. It's a little bit weird. Like a lot of people don't know exactly what foster means. Like create or empower are more like straightforward words. Foster is kind of like a hazy word.
I agree. Maybe then something else instead of foster, like enhance, but that's not the right. Also possible, but not good.
Right. I'll look up the definition of foster. I do like the word foster, and I thought about this previously when we were talking about before. It means, I just pulled it up really quickly, to bring up, nurture. Nurture is good. To promote the growth and development of, cultivate, advance, nourish, cherish. So those are all good. And so I like it. I'm not necessarily saying we have to change it, but if it's just on its own, foster collaboration, then I feel like having create and empower around it kind of add more to it as well. So that's one reason.
It's specific.
The verbiage. Yeah. Another reason too is one, I think that foster collaboration can encompass creating public goods and empower communities, but I think there's unique benefit to both of those as well. So, I mean, for one thing, as we said, the verbiage creating and empowering in addition to fostering adds more to it and specifies. And then public goods. So just for one thing, collaboration doesn't specify what kind of collaboration at all. You could have collaboration, like as a far example, the Nazis were collaborating. They were collaborating in a very bad way. And also, if you look at the word collaborating too, there is a definition that means like potentially, some sort of negative connotation. So on Merriam-Webster.com, the second one, the second definition that they show for what it's worth is to cooperate or willingly assist an enemy of one's country, and especially an occupying force. So that's a little bit aggressive and not exactly what we're going for here. But that being said, I still love the word collaborate, and I never think about it in that terms, really. I mean, but it just some people could, I suppose. And then just as a general point, when we have public goods and empowering communities, that makes it more clear the directionality of the collaboration, what that collaboration is aiming to do. I also think empowering communities is really important. I wrote at the bottom a little bit, like empowering communities is kind of like the key in many ways. Like it's part of More Equal Animals. It's like the antidote to tyranny. It's like the enabler of the best experience possible in many ways. Like you need smaller communities, like you need empowered communities, and just communities in general are great because like community is a great word. It's got a lot of I don't know, feeling in it and emotion and like connection with different people, which is really important. And that's something that has been really important and natural to us throughout nature and throughout humanity's history. And like we all feel that when we're with like a bunch of good friends or with a community of people who are working together. So I think that like focusing on community is good, and specifically empowering communities. Like I think that that's, if anything, if I were to just focus on one thing, I might focus on empowering communities over fostering collaboration, because also empowering communities can also include fostering collaboration, because if you want to empower communities, then you need to foster collaboration within the communities. For a community to be empowered, then the people within the community and inter-communities need to collaborate as well. That being said, I still like fostering collaboration too, very much. And so that's one of the reasons I have it there. And I'm so open to what you suggested about just having fostering collaboration as well. But that's one of the reasons I like it. And I think that the empowering part is also really helpful. And then the creating public goods, that also makes it clear too. It's like, that gives more directionality. It's a public good. It's something that's good for everybody. And that's something that I think everybody can rally around. Everybody, like, it's like, who says, public goods aren't good? Like it's an impossible thing to say, basically, because like everybody wants everybody to do better. Also, public connotates not just fostering collaboration to help me and you or the people in our community, but it's public, it's for all. So it's creating something, and it's creating something that's good for everybody. And it's collaborating and empowering communities on a local scale to do that as well.
Yeah, no, they are all good. Like I agree with all of them. They are a good thing to rally around, and you can really explain what is the value. Yeah.
Cool. And do you have any other thoughts? And just on that note, from our conversation with the past 5 minutes, do you think that it's best to just have it as Eden Fractal's mission is to foster collaboration, or do you think it's better to have something like Eden Fractal's mission is to include all three, creating public goods, foster collaboration, and empower communities? Or do you have any other thoughts about it?
Both are good. Like, both are good. Yeah. Like equal. I can end up in analysis paralysis when both things are like pretty much equally good, and then you cannot decide, and then you just like spend time on analyzing both while both are equally good. So maybe just toss a coin and go with that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sounds good. And it goes along with what I think you were doing some research into sociocracy and the stuff that Gabriel brought up about doing no harm. I don't think that either one would do harm. And I think, these are things that can change. We could propose it this week and then change our mind next week or next year or whatever and be able to change it. As it stands right now, I think that it's best to propose this in the upcoming meeting. And I mean, I literally just started thinking of this like 2 hours ago, so my mind could change. Or I just wrote it down like 2 hours ago. I didn't think about it for many weeks, but really, formalized it over 2 hours ago. So, but as it stands right now, I'm thinking that maybe I'll just propose the one with all three this week. Of course, you or anybody else can propose the one with foster collaboration, but I'm leaning towards the one with three. And I think that proposing in the next week would be good, because then we could get that discussion going, and then perhaps if delegates want to pass it, then we can have a mission that's formal, and I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, sounds reasonable. Now let me share a thought that it came after I did the reading on sociocracy, holocracy, and it also came from even Fractal, in a sense that we have like experimented with a certain decision-making procedure, that we have a consensus system where we have to have super majority in order to pass anything, in order to, so to say, accept as a community something. And as I already mentioned, it seems fairly inefficient, in a sense that it takes a lot of time to discuss the proposals, but even not that, it takes a lot of time for everybody to be on the same page. So you might need to make some kind of decision in regards to multisig, for example. You need to have a lot of knowledge, like just how the multisig works on EOS. A lot of background information that you have to know to make a knowledgeable decision, and to explain to everyone, to get everyone on the same page. It just takes time, hence inefficient. So I've been thinking, okay, what would be better? And I really like what I read about holocracy. I actually had like an hour-long conversation with ChatGPT, just chatting about holocracy, sociocracy, and
yeah. If I could, you hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. So please hold that thought, because I'm very interested.
Yeah,
I have a situation. I'm going to stop recording for a minute, and I'll explain it to you. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So Vlad, as you were saying, sorry to interrupt. If you want to go back or explain more of it, then feel free.
Yeah. So we left on how holocracy works and why it seems more efficient. In holocracy, essentially, as ChatGPT told me, now sometimes ChatGPT tells like bullshit, so I'm not sure about holocracy, but I liked what he said. It said, and essentially in holocracy, the decisions are left to the individuals. So individuals have a lot of decision-making power, but they can exercise their decision-making power only in their domains. So they have certain responsibilities that things that they are responsible for. And if whatever it is that they have to decide, they are the final decision maker. That's it. Simple, actually. And so I've been thinking, okay, but how to combine that with still the fractal democracy? And in holocracy, you have circles. And circle is just a department. A circle is like you can say, small organization that has certain like objective. It tries to do something. It has a mission, so to say. And each such circle has a lead link. A lead link is something that they call essentially you can say CEO of the circle. He is the ultimate decision maker. And I think each circle can still use fractal democracy in order to elect this lead link. And this lead link would create roles. So he would choose, okay, what people do we need to fulfill our objective? And then he would concretely describe what are the responsibilities, and then he will be completely responsible for finding those people. And yeah, and again, when the person is onboarded into his role, he has full autonomy to decide what to do, how to achieve what is written in his responsibility. That is completely up to the individual. And I think it's really efficient that way, because then individual does not have to like, okay, let's have a meeting, 3 weeks of meetings to discuss some kind of one thing, which could be decided in 5 minutes by one individual. So yeah, that's the idea. What do you think?
It's very interesting. Thank you for bringing this up. So I have several thoughts about it. For one thing, I think that it can be rooted in the current process that we have and the current fractal cooperation, fractal democracy, and so forth, where I suppose all decisions can start with the whole community as a whole, but the community as a whole can delegate responsibilities and power to people within the community or groups within the community. So, and it's kind of like we do with the moderation guidelines. And we can do that with other things as well. And I think I agree, it can help make things more efficient. It can help make things a lot more efficient. And it can reduce unambiguity. No, it can reduce ambiguity and make it more clear and make it more efficient. So yeah, I can see a lot of value in this, and I'll try to elaborate and explain it here. So I think that, like, to start off with, any decision about having somebody as a CEO of their circle or a lead of their role or something like that, like, if that's something, I mean, first off, it just happens informally, and it's fine when it happens informally in many cases. So for example, you've kind of been like the CEO of the web app. like basically, like that hasn't been formally established, but you've been making all the decisions. We haven't gone and made a proposal and had a long discussion every time if we want to change the color of the web app, or if we want to change how it's oriented or something like that. You just made the decision, and there's kind of an informal setup where you were the circle lead, but we just didn't agree upon it. However, there has been some confusion about that, and there has been some disagreements and so forth about that. Like, for example, the things that Perry's brought up. Perry has brought up, like, well, shouldn't that be a big community decision? Shouldn't everybody decide if we make a change, such as adding the MindWeb link to the consortium app or to the web app? And I have generally just, I mean, we talked about this a lot, won't get into too much detail, but I appreciate Perry asking questions, but I don't agree with him here, because I'm like, this is your app. The group isn't dependent upon this app, like, totally. If that app didn't work, then we could always use the EOS blockchain a different way, or Hive, or some other system. And to me, it's been totally fine
you could easily take the code and deploy. It's
that's
like 5 minutes.
That's true too. It's open source. And then even if it wasn't open source and you didn't know how to use code, then you could still just use Hive or something like that. There's lots of different ways to do it. So I haven't seen an issue in there, and I've tried to explain that to Perry, as several other people have, that it's easy to have it be, there's not much dependency there, and it's easy to change if we need to. So for the purpose of efficiency and so forth, I'm just trusting you to make the decisions about that. I'm not going to you, or I'm not making proposals about, let's change the color of this, let's have this button on there, and so forth. I'm just like, Vlad has that taken care of. If Vlad wants feedback, then he can reach out, and I'm happy to help however I can. But otherwise, Vlad, I'm just trusting his work there. Vlad's like the CEO of that. Similarly, you could say the same thing about a lot of different projects in the space. Like, for example, Patrick is doing the mind web, and he's using his own, he's kind of like the CEO of the mind web aspect of it, where he's running his own mind web there. He's also kind of like the CEO of the brainstorming sessions in a way. Like, we're all kind of collaborating and making decisions, but ultimately, you know, different people are leading different initiatives within it,
Yes.
the Fractal, that are helping the Fractal, that are helping the community, that aren't formally created by proposal by the community and so forth. This has happened many times. Stas took a lead on many things. And we had, I think, one situation in which this was clearly established by the Fractal community, by the community so far, and that was in electing a moderator, which is a little bit different, of course, but it has some similarities in that previously it was ambiguous, it wasn't defined, and I was kind of hosting and I was moderating. I was trying to help with it, you know, obviously, and I was the host of the Zoom, and I was trying to welcome people and stuff, but it wasn't formally agreed upon by the community. And then actually formally agreeing upon the community, you know, I hadn't thought about it until Matthias mentioned, and you and Tadas and all of us worked together to make the guidelines, and Tadas actually proposed it, and then we actually passed it in week 28. But I think that really helped because it removed a lot of the unambiguity. It allowed me to be more, I suppose, aggressive in moderating as I saw fit without trying to step on other people's toes and so forth. And then if people don't like the way I'm moderating, then we have a process where somebody else can be elected as a moderator. So that was a situation in which that role, I wasn't like the CEO of moderation or hosting quite as much. I suppose I was the CEO of the Zoom host. I was the Zoom host, technically and literally. And I wasn't as much a CEO of the moderation, if that makes sense, as much as you were the CEO of the web app, if this analogy makes sense. But I was like still kind of leading with the moderation, although some other people were trying to help as well. But then actually formalizing it gave me, you know, and it's not the right terminology, being the CEO of moderation, but it gave me a formal role that gave me some power within the community to act as I see fit. And I think that same kind of model could work in all cases, or in many cases at least. And I think that like it doesn't need to be like I mean, there's a lot more to Holocracy, and from what I understand, it's a pretty full system. I'm just thinking about it specifically with how it can fit in within like the confines of what we're already doing, basically, where and perhaps I'm interested to explore too if you have a larger vision for it. But basically, if it's all rooted in the current process that we have, in many cases, just an informal role designation can be helpful, and that's what works in majority of cases so far. But there's some cases in which it's better to have more clarity, and it's better to reduce that ambiguity, and it's better to say for the future, like say if next week we pass a proposal, Vlad is the lead, the CEO or whatever of the web app circle, just for example, and then in the future that can I suppose protect the community from, or just make the community more efficient, so we don't have to have discussions like in the future, like Perry or somebody else asking, well, I didn't vote on putting that on Vlad's web app, and how about we do this with Vlad's app and so forth? Could we say, well, the community, I mean, first off, we were informally just trusting Vlad, but now we're passing a proposal to say we're formally trusting Vlad to be the lead developer of this web app, just like how we're formally trusting Dan to be the moderator of the meeting. And we can do the same thing for other circles as well with leads. So does that make sense? And is that and is that fit in with how you're thinking that Holocracy can help?
It makes sense from the perspective that like those roles have been created naturally, so to say. We didn't have any lead link. Just I saw that, okay, web app would be nice. Boom, I built. Somebody else, you saw that there is a need for moderation. Boom, you moderated. Same with Tadas and everybody else. Everybody did just what they took responsibility. They just created responsibilities for themselves. But yeah, that's very good. But sometimes you need just more like experienced person. Let's say, I don't know, a CEO of Fortune 500 company would become lead link of either Fractal. No doubt that we would like start showing progress. Like there is no doubt, zero doubt. So yeah, I guess the point is that sometimes you need a an expert, so to say, who would give his contribution in setting up the roles and giving creating those responsibilities, maybe setting a vision. Yeah, that's the thought. And lead link, he has like one other responsibility that lead link has besides wait, no, that was already a rep link. There are two roles that, as I understand, each circle should have: a lead link and a rep link. So lead link runs the day-to-day operations, CEO, and the rep link is like I would say a little bit like a foreign minister. If there is a circle above, like if you're part of some circle, then the rep link maintains connection with the higher circle. He sort of goes there, explains what is the circle doing, and then he gets directions from the main circle of what the main circle would wish that the inner circle would focus on. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for explaining that. I had not heard about the lead link or rep link before. Is rep link short for anything, or is it just REP link?
I think it's like a representative link.
Okay. So you mentioned before lead link of Eden Fractal.
Yeah.
So the way I was envisioning and the way I was explaining it is that the lead link of Eden Fractal, so to speak, is essentially the delegates of Eden Fractal. It's the council.
Right now, yes.
And I think that's probably for the best. I mean, I don't even know if it's the council, because it's also like there's also like the lead link is to try to put this into the analogy. Maybe I'm wrong here. I'm just kind of thinking about this as I go, but there's also like there's two different things. There's the informal structures and there's the formal structures. And the informal structures are what has been working mostly for us for most of the time. Having it where, just like you said, you saw a need, you filled it. I saw a need, I filled it. Tada saw a need, he filled it, and so forth. We all just did different things that we were capable of doing that felt like it's beneficial to the community without asking us. The system naturally rewarded people who help more, and the community used the process, the Fractal process, and so forth to allocate respect according to how much people were helping in those informal roles. And then, since the past 4 months or so, since we started the Eden Fractal process with delegates, we had a formal process to also make decisions. A formal process insofar as, like a council that can create opinions and signals for the community as a whole with this process with quite a lot of legitimacy, and that has seemed to work well in many ways so far. So those are kind of like the lead links that I see. One is just like the informal collaboration, and one is this formal Eden Fractal process that we've created so far. And then I think that it makes the most sense for probably it still to be rooted in those two, and probably, I guess, the formal process with the Eden Fractal councils and delegates who are like the ultimate CEO and so forth. If you have just a single CEO that you bring in, then like that's a centralization vector and so forth.
You don't bring him in. You don't bring him in. He is elected within community. So, for example, it would be possible to have each 2 months similar election as we have with Eden, like the main Eden, where we just do multiple rounds, and then even I would do an election in the last round as well to, so to say, elect the chief delegate, who is the lead link then.
Interesting. It sounds a little bit like Chris's idea for DGov then in that case. I think that I mean that's certainly something to explore, and I'm interested in exploring it. It's an idea that I haven't thought very deeply about, and lots of different things to consider. My first intuition is that if the delegates wanted to elect a lead link, then they could do so in the same way without having a separate election, just in the way that we currently do it. And that lead link or CEO could change. And in general, one of the flaws I see with the Eden election system and with Chris's idea for DGov is that there's a large amount of latency in it. I think, I mean, that's also a benefit in some ways too, to have more stability
What do you
in
mean?
leadership. I mean, with the weekly process, the community can react to changes faster. It can respond, it can adapt faster to a more rapidly changing environment. As we continue and as we go on this exponential growth trend of technology and artificial intelligence and all these different things, it's valuable for a community to make decisions quickly. Currently, a government like the United States government can only change its leader officially, the president, every 4 years. That
Yeah.
I don't think it's fit for enabling people to cooperate, because so much changes in 4 years. If you put that larger, if you had a king that changed every 50 years, like that would not give the community any chance of competing and surviving in the long term with other communities, other nations, and so forth that have more adaptive cooperative systems to make decisions faster. Similarly, 4 years, it's a very long time. So much changing in 4 years. Made sense for the past few hundred years or whatever. And there is benefits and stability. So, one leader can have time to build and so forth. And similarly with the Eden elections too, first it was every 6 months, then it was every 3 months, and so forth. And I imagine Chris is imagining a 3-month election with DGov, and I suppose that could work in the short term. I mean, I think it probably will. It's working relatively well for the Eden on EOS, and I think that there's a lot of potential in there. And I think that ultimately, just like how there's a lot of different variations of trees and animals and so forth, there's going to be all sorts of different variations of cooperative organisms, like in communities, basically, how people structure their communities. And so some will have where the lead link or the chief delegates or the CEO or however is elected on a monthly basis or a yearly basis or a weekly basis, and all these things can change. But in general, I do see benefit in having the weekly elections in that we're able to respond to changes quicker. If somebody's being
I
a
think
great, just one last thought, if somebody's being a great CEO/lead link that was elected by the delegates, maybe they'll stay as a delegate, or maybe they'll stay as a CEO/lead link for a year and they won't change. Similar to how so far it seems like the community generally appreciates my moderation. So I've been a moderator for now, I guess 10 weeks or so. So, and any week that could change, but if somebody's doing a good job, then they could stay. But if I stop being a good moderator, or if I do things that are bad, or if other people come up that do a better job, then basically any week they could change it. So it's capable to make changes faster.
like if the election is every week, it's I think if there is potential that lead link would change every week, thing would not work. That's too much risk for the lead link, that he's uncertain. And it's again, inefficiency comes from the fact that nothing gets built. Maybe it takes you 3 weeks to deliver what you want to do, but then next week you're already not there. So I think 1 week is too quick. Then if there is a system where the, let's say, lead link is the person who has the most respect in the last 12 weeks, also possibility. But then again, it's also leads to a situation where you could just in a week not be there, which is also not good. If two top contributors are really close to each other, they start mixing up and no work will be done. So that's not very good as well. I know that Haifa, for example, they for each role that they have, they it is active for I think 2 or 3 months, and then you're automatically fired, so to say. So if you want to continue your role, then you apply again, and then the decision makers, they either vote you in again or not. So I like that approach. And if the lead link would be the ultimate decision maker, then he could every 2 months either accept the person again to the role or reject, find a new one. Yeah.
So a couple thoughts and questions. One, you mentioned the idea of having it determined by the people who have the most person who has the most respect over the past 12 weeks, and I think you also kind of backtrack on that a little bit too, because there could be two people with close amounts of respect and so forth. I think it is probably best to decouple the amount of respect and lead link responsibilities. That's something that I think was a wise decision by Tadas when he created the Eden plus Fractal process, that you could decouple respect from lead link responsibilities. I think it's kind of just two different things in a way. Like somebody might be doing a lot of great stuff for the community, get a lot of respect, but they might not want the responsibility of delegating other power and so forth. Secondly, I mean, I do think so. I acknowledge that there's a balance of adaptability to change and I suppose efficiency or ability to coordinate longer term projects, longer term work. So having more frequent changes could make the community more agile, but if you have it too frequent, then it can make it difficult to be able to do things that take more time to do it. Two thoughts. One is another advantage that I see over the Eden plus Fractal system over the Eden election system is that I think there's a greater sample size. Yeah, I think there's
like
a greater
opinions or what?
Yeah, there's greater sample size and opinions. Like it's kind of like a higher resolution measurement of who should be a delegate, or who should be a lead link and so forth in a way. So in the Eden elections, I love the Eden elections. They're amazing and they've led to so many great things, and I'm very excited about them. But there's a lot more randomness in them. You only have an hour or 40 minutes or whatever, and then then there's a 3-month term and a lot of power that comes with that. You get a lot of funding and a lot of decision-making power and so forth. And it's all just decided in an hour, basically. It's a lot of randomness. There's a lot of situations in which you look at a room and you look at somebody who got elected and you're like, well, really, it probably would have been better if that other person got elected. But that's just how it works. And that's how the system is designed. Whereas Eden plus Fractal, there's kind of a higher resolution of measurement and more sample size because you're not just doing that one room and having those chief delegates elected, but there's elections one every week, and there's elections where it's not just one person, but they're forming councils over 4 weeks, and those councils come to agreement. So I could probably explain that better in the future, but I think that there is some point there in that it's a higher resolution. It can be more accurate measurement of consensus, whereas one of the flaws or downsides that I can see in the Eden elections is that randomness plays a larger role and you don't get as high of a resolution sampling of opinion, something like that. Secondly, I'm not sure. I mean, if you want to comment on that, then you can go ahead. My other thought is a bit unrelated. Should I go on to the other point, or?
Like completely unrelated to...
No, it's still the same point, but basically the point, I'll just very briefly summarize it, was just I don't know if it's necessary to have a lead link who's making those decisions, because like my first kind of intuition about how it could work was just that the delegates, the council, are essentially the lead link in addition to the informal process, which I think would work quite well. I could see potential where a lead link could work quite well too, but I mean, really, if we just had lead links of separate things, like separate sub aspects, I think that would solve most problems that we have now and be a good system overall. And I see value in that. Like say if we had where the delegates still have the ultimate signaling power of the community, so to speak, but then they could say Vlad is the lead link for the web app, Dan's the web app for moderation, Tadas is the lead link for this, Patrick's the lead link for that, or something like that. Like that would solve. I don't see like perhaps a lead link with one person could make it help us move faster in the future. It might be worth exploring, but currently I could see a definite need, or at least a definite potential benefit from formalizing your role as like the lead link of the web app, so to speak. Whereas I don't see as big of a pressing need, and for like a formalizing of one person to be like the CEO of the whole entire community.
I think there's need for both. And also a huge need for delegates. Like I see a lot of value with Eden plus Fractal for decentralizing the treasury or decentralizing the smart contract, because it's decentralized enough. There are quite a lot of delegates, which makes it really hard to collude to attack the contract or steal the money from the treasury. But at the same time, they are able to pass decisions, as we have demonstrated that it's not easy. But if we take the time, we are able to reach consensus. And that's exactly, for example, for Zeos, I see it as perfect because the contract needs to be secure, because a lot is there, the whole Zeos token and the whole economy. But at the same time, the delegates could work together to change some parameters in the smart contract. So if they want to adjust inflation or set up some kind of fee, they're able to do that. So it's a really nice balance for securing the contract. But again, not very good for constant day-to-day decisions about operations, about who to hire, how much to pay, what's our mission, what's our values. It's still valuable to get opinion of delegates. It is very valued, but again, ultimate decision-making power, as I see it right now, is max efficient if each individual is able to decide who is responsible for his role, his responsibility, but which is in his role. But again, it's I'm still it's just where I'm at right now. My ideas always change if I get some new information, but right now it seems pretty interesting to explore further.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting. So looking forward to exploring it more. I could go back and get into more details about how I think that potentially the delegates could play that role. So I think that a few different things. One, I know you said before that you had a lot of stuff to do today, and so you only had about an hour,
Yeah.
and we're almost at an hour right now. So I think maybe to respect that time and also make sure you're able to do other things, we can continue this conversation at another point, because it's a very interesting idea. And just
let's see if you have any more thoughts. Let's finish them, and then I think we covered today pretty interesting topics.
I agree.
This is worth sharing.
I think so too. Yeah. So there's a couple of points that I want to add before we wrap up. So one about the lead link and stuff like that, and the potential for a CEO kind of figure. I think that's definitely worth exploring, and a lot of interesting ideas there. I don't think there's an immediate need for that, although I think that the idea about perhaps appointing you as the lead link of the web app could help in future discussions, perhaps in the coming weeks. Something like that, and that we're formally, even if we don't call it that, we're just formally saying we trust Vlad to use his app as he wishes. And then we could also formally say, if Vlad doesn't do it, then we could kind of revoke that. And we could also say it's not, we can make it clear there's not dependencies. So that could help clarify for Perry and make people feel they're just spell it out clearly. I mean, I'm kind of specifically talking to Perry's concerns here. Spell it out clearly, so Perry or other people who have some ideas there, it's spelled out clearly in writing, and we're giving kind of formal power to you, and we're agreeing. Let's not have a discussion anymore about MindWeb being on the consortium interface, because it's what we've agreed to as a community. I think that could be something. I'm not necessarily saying we definitely should do that, but I'm saying that kind of removing the unambiguity and putting out a opinion from the community that we're just trusting you to do that, but there's not dependencies. I think that might be a good idea, which is kind of related to what you're saying. That's one idea. And that could be helpful in the coming weeks. And that could also be a step if we do want to eventually go to the more kind of lead link of the whole community kind of thing. I don't think it would be appropriate to just do that right away. I think that the more appropriate steps to do that, if we did decide that was a good idea, would be to start with lead links for smaller circles, so to speak. And in the interim, in the meantime, then the delegates could elect like, specific lead links to specific circles like the web app. And then after trying that out, then it could be electing like a full chief CEO kind of figure if we wanted.
I think it's already inefficient if delegates are the ones who are creating roles. That's again, it would take us 5 weeks to discuss whether Vladislav should be developing a web app. And this is no.
I don't know about that. I think that probably my impression of it is that most people are in agreement that what you're doing with the, and we don't have to language, we don't have to formalize it saying you're the lead link of it or anything that we don't have to put, we can just keep it as simple as possible and just say like, we're okay with Vlad building the web app as he wishes right now, and there's not dependencies for the community because we can always use different things. And then in the future, if somebody like Perry brings it up, then we could say this is an opinion that the community has voiced, and these are the reasons. It could be like 3 sentences long, basically. There's not dependencies because these are the options, and we're okay with the way that Vlad has the current app right now, and we can always change it if we want to.
So now imagine discussions about payments, how much that person should be paid, discussions about what exactly are the responsibilities of that person, endless discussion. What else is there? Like there's so many details to having creating a role that it would really take a lot of time, as I see it right now, for delegates to agree upon on those different like details. So yeah, I think that's actually, I've been thinking that I don't see even point anymore of creating proposals. Like it's more reasonable to create a topic for discussion, and then it just like, okay, if people like it, then they just start incorporating whatever is there, and we can move quicker to a next thing, because there's so many details in everything that it's just a waste of time to try to reach consensus with such a large group. Yeah.
So
okay, we're going circles a bit, but
yeah, all right. Well, let me just add one thought to that, and then just a couple quick thoughts. You mentioned sharing before, and there's one other thing that I wanted to very briefly bring up and hear your opinion about, if you have time. Regarding what you're saying about different complexities that come up and the purpose of proposals. So as I was suggesting it, I didn't have any thought about payments or anything like that. I see a large value in proposals in simply expressing an opinion of the community. It's kind of like, if we're to make an analogy between biological brains and community brains or mimetic brains or something like that. In our biological brains, we have neurons and we have like trillions of them and they're firing around. And then at some point the neurons go and they say this, and then we say that. It's kind of like the neurons are making a proposal to the mouth in a very basic way of putting it. The neurons are making a proposal. Should we say that? Should we say this? Let's say this. And then you say it. And then you say and you express your opinion. And I see proposals in the community are kind of like that. Like it's valuable because the community should have the ability to express opinions. The community should have the ability to say things. And
I agree.
And it's not just individuals within the community saying their own opinions, but the community should have a process by which to come to consensus about what opinions that the community will express as a community. And that's what a proposal basically is. The proposals, they're not enforceable in any way. It just shared opinions from the community. And so there's value in that, to be able to say, for example, the mission that we were just talking about, we made a proposal, all the neurons collectively, the delegates in the community made a proposal to each other. They talked about the mission, and this is the opinion that we expressed, that the opinion that the Eden Fractal's mission is to foster collaboration, create public goods or whatever. So, and then when people ask, what is the mission? Then you can say, well, everybody can have their own mission as individuals, but the opinion that the community expressed about the mission is this. And then that answers the question. I mean, maybe you could say it a bit better, but then it reduces the ambiguity, and it can just give people a simple answer. Whereas if you don't have a proposal to do that, then there still is that ambiguity. Then you just have, well, everybody has these opinions and you can go with it if you want. And that's always still there. But if you have the proposal and you pass it, then you say also people have their own opinions, but this is what the community has formally expressed for their opinion, and we have this process where if we want to change that opinion, then you could do that. You can make a proposal to change it. So I see a lot of value in that. And the thing that I was suggesting to reduce the ambiguity about you hosting the web app as you see fit, I wasn't suggesting to say anything about payments or anything else. I was just saying, and also perhaps rooting the conversation in the idea of lead link and holocracy and stuff like that might add too much heaviness and burden to it and so forth. It's better to start out like if we could just propose like 2 sentences, like we're okay with Vlad doing the web app as he wants. That could be it. Basically, it could be 1 sentence, and we could say basically in the and we could basically say in the description. And one of the reasons why we're okay with this is because it's not dependent, it's open source, we have other options. And then if somebody asks, like, why is Vlad doing this? Why is doing that? Let's have a proposal about why doing that. Then they can, but we can also say, well, the community already expressed an opinion that we're okay with this, so we can move on to the next topic.
Like, there is not much value if I would know that I can continue building web app. I know that already.
I think the value would be in being more efficient in the meeting time, because right now it's like, say, when Perry asks about it, there is no community opinion right now that either people agree with Perry or disagree with Perry. There is many individual opinions that people have expressed, but we could express an opinion that says, okay, this is a topic that we've discussed thoroughly enough. Now we can move on to other topics. So it can help us be more efficient. The informal process has been going all along. You've been building it, and most of us have been okay with it. But there are some people in the community, like Perry, who isn't okay with that. And if people agree with Perry, then we could continue discussing that. But if people don't agree with Perry and they just want to focus on other topics, then we could say, okay, well, the community has expressed an opinion that we're okay with this. So let's move on to the next topic. And you can keep building all along, but it could just save time and make our meetings more efficient.
And now we're already getting into the moderator guideline territory, how to make meeting more efficient by muting people who don't make sense.
I guess I'm not necessarily muting, but I guess I'm not taking the technical definition of muting in Zoom, and I don't want to mute Perry or anything like that because I appreciate a lot of his insights, but I do think that we discussed the topic enough. And I could say as a moderator, like, Perry, we're done with this topic. I'm going to mute you. I have that formal ability in Zoom, but I don't want to do that. And I think it's helpful for the moderator, for me or whoever the moderator is, to know this is the community opinion that's been expressed about this topic. So let's move on to the next topic. And it's not meeting totally. Like I offered Perry, I think you left at the end of the meeting, but we talked for another like hour. I think you left when there was like an hour left, but the conversation went on a lot with Perry and Patrick and so forth talking about this. And at one point I asked, I offered, like, I'm happy to discuss this at other meetings. I offered Perry to set up another meeting where we could discuss it. I could promote it and so forth. But I suggested, like, it seems like most people in the community, so perhaps this is a piece of context that I guess you didn't have as I've been explaining this, but conversation went on for much longer, primarily focused around Perry's concerns with Patrick's funding of you and other people in the community. And I said, like, I don't agree for these reasons. I think that Vlad and Dan made good points about how it's not dependent and so forth. And Patrick made a donation to Eden Fractal, which is like the 4,000 EOS, which is being spread out via the credibly neutral democratic process. But then he also made the individual donations to you and to Das, and that's okay as individuals and so forth. And it seemed like Perry still didn't really agree. So I said, it seems like the impression I get is that nobody else is really interested in discussing this topic. Several other people in the community have voiced that they don't want to talk about that topic more. And I'm also generally in agreement too. I think it's a helpful topic to explore, but it's been explored thoroughly enough at this point. And I don't want to be in a position where I'm just like, no, Perry, we're done. But if the community voices an opinion and just says like a 2-sentence thing, we can move on to the next topic and let's discuss something else during our hour in Eden Fractal. Then that gives kind of a permission for the moderator to say, okay, let's move on to the next topic. And it's not, I don't know if permission is the right word, because the moderator always has permission according to the moderator guidelines, but it gives more, I guess, legitimacy and more ability for the community to move forward without having, just one person exercising too much power or something like that.
You're the CEO of the meeting, so you can do whatever the fuck you want.
I haven't been elected as the CEO of the meeting. I was elected as the moderator,
And a moderator is
but
CEO of the meeting.
I have a lot of power, so technically I could, and perhaps I should, but I think that thing like the more that the community can provide signals to the community about what the community wants to do, then that helps guide the moderator because I want to do the best for the community.
No,
And
you're doing good. You're like, if you mute people, that might be too disrespectful, and you're like doing it, muting people respectfully. Like you're grasping well when it's like gets off topic, and so all good.
thank you. I appreciate the feedback, and I'm glad that you're appreciating it. And I'll keep working to do my best for the community and then improving each week. And of course, you're doing an excellent job too with everything you're doing, both sharing all your thoughts during the meetings and building and stuff like that. So thank you very much as well.
Cool. Okay, let's go.
If you have like 1 or 2 minutes, I know we're over time, but the last two things I wanted to just bring up was one, you mentioned sharing this video. I think it could be helpful to share this perhaps sooner because we did have a lot of insightful conversations that are kind of immediate. So if you want to share this with the community sometime this week, I mean, I'd be open to sharing it. We could just put out the video without editing or anything like that, but it might be valuable for a lot of constructive thoughts that we're doing now. We could also not do that. We could save it for later if you want, but this one in particular has been very constructive. I think that might be good to share this week.
Yes, this one is good to share.
Okay, cool. So you think I should just share this in the Eden Fractal Telegram group and just share it as is? Is there anything we should cut or change or just share it as is, basically?
I guess just as it is.
Okay, cool. And I'll just give it like a quick title, maybe just like, I don't know, discussing mission and holocracy or something, maybe?
Discussing Eden Fractal stuff.
Discussing fractals. Okay, that's a good name. I'll go with that. And then the last topic that I had on here that we didn't get to, we don't have to get into it. It could potentially be a big topic, but I just wanted to just run it by you real quick. I was wondering, and if you want to just end it right here, if you don't want to get into this, we can always not discuss it or save it for another time, schedule a different meeting. But I was wondering if you had any thoughts. It's been 2 days since we had our last meeting for Eden Fractal, and one of the things that we discussed mostly was about the agreements and policies, or rather the agreement I proposed, where we can have an agreement where people have to sign. And you also mentioned some ideas about reframing as a policy or something like that. We discussed it at the meeting. I'm thinking that this would also be good to make a move on and make a proposal on for next week. I was thinking of just making a proposal with a agreement that's essentially mandatory for people to sign to participate. And I was thinking of just starting it really simple with just 2 terms. You consent to being on video and you speak English. And then people could propose additional things after that for more potential terms or clauses or whatever. But that's basically my idea, to have it where propose that. You can see what the delegates think about it, could propose it for next week. And then also I was wondering if technically if that could be implemented into the interface. I know it was there before previously, but I think it's not there now. There's code as law option. So I'm wondering if you had any thoughts following up on last week's meeting or 2 days ago meeting, and if you think that's a good idea, and then also about the technical feasibility of putting it up on the web app.
Yeah, I think it's valuable to like clarify that English is necessary and that it's being recorded. But I see little value in putting it right now on chain and doing the agreement. I think it would be just valuable to include that in our like introductory article to Eden Fractal, like to have it in one of the first paragraphs that the only requirement needed, or it's not even requirement, just disclaimer that the stuff is being recorded and uploaded, and please speak English, otherwise it's going to be difficult.
Okay. As without going into much detail, but just to summarize, I think that it's helpful to have it on chain because that's immutable. Like people could say, "Oh, I didn't read that" or whatever, and then they could say in a year from now, I didn't read that and I didn't know, so I feel like I was wrong or something like that. So I think that having it on chain is very valuable, just because I mean it's a pretty simple thing. They could just hit the sign transaction button right when they join. it's not a long thing they have to read. They can read it in 30 seconds and sign it. And then it's an on-chain transaction. It's immutable. It shows they did read this, they agreed to it, and so I see value in that.
Okay, we agree to disagree.
Okay, sounds good. And with that agreement to disagreement, would it be okay with you if I propose that for next week? And then if it does pass in the proposal, would you be okay with adding that to the web app as a little thing where people could sign it or something?
First one, yes. Second one, no.
Okay.
You can do whatever you want, but since I don't see value in that, I wouldn't add that.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, we can also discuss this more if you're up for it in the future. But I think we're probably at time. Thanks for the great conversation, Vlad. Sorry that we went over time. I hope I haven't prevented you from doing work.
Good.
But yeah, it's been a great conversation discussing Eden Fractal stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Adios.
All right. Adios. See you later.